But I don't think you get to.
You might be surprised. you speak as long as you feel comfortable.
No. Never get a direct answer right now.
This is England. Half an hour. Half an hour. 45 minutes?
An hour?
An hour? She's the boss.
2 hours. 2 hours.
All right, guys. You okay?
Yeah. Not going to be very effective. Michelle's birthday party.
Okay. No birthday party.
This is not a birthday party.
This is warming up for the birthday.
Figment of our imaginations. Okay, folks, we're now Buddhists. None of this exists. Right. Well, I thought the most appropriate thing to talk about on a birthday party is parties. So I thought we'd read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 19, Text 31. Does anybody have any idea what that chapter is about? Canto 3, Chapter 19. Good guesses? Not yet. Well, it's really the end. I mean, part of the movie is like kind of sort of picture at this point. Any other guesses? No, that's Canto 4.
Fourth canto.
That's way ahead. Who's before your computer? Anybody ever read through the Bhagavatam starting at the beginning? There's a lot of
My trade.
Okay, but what story are they talking about? What's the story? Let's try to read this right. No. Good job.
You want? I didn't know anything. You want to say cat? Come on, Marley, what are you doing over there? What is it?
Well, if you listen carefully to the Sanskrit, it's text 31, so it's close to the last text of the chapter. Maitreya uvacha evam hiranyakasham asya vikrama sasadya vitya adi adi shukara jagamalokam swa akandidotsavam samihikam pushkara vitara divi. Thank you. You heard Hiranyaksha and you heard Adi Sukra. Adi Sukra means the first. Maitreya Uvacha means? There you go, that's easy. Evam? Thus. Hiranyaksham. Asaya Vikrama. What's Vikrama? Steps are actually powerful steps. Very powerful. Saha, the Lord, means he, literally. Sada Yitva, after killing. Harihi means
The Lord.
The Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Adi Sukaraha means?
The original
Oh,
form.
the lady's all sleeping. I already told you that. The firstborn. Jagama, returned. Lokam, planet, his abode. Swam, his own abode. So, Swam, Lokam Swam, his own abode. Now here's what we're going to focus on. Akandita means uninterrupted. It never stops. What is it that never stops? Utsavam. What's an utsava?
Festival.
So Akandita Utsavam means
Never-ending
festival. And of course the and the U become O, so it becomes Akandita Utsavam. Akandita Utsavam. Samanditaha being praised. Pushkar Vistara, lotus seat, which means by Lord Brahma, who sits on the lotus. Adibihi, and all others. Translation. Sri Maitreya continued. After thus killing the most Hiranyaksha. What does Hiranyaksha literally mean? Golden what?
Eyes.
Eyes. Yeah, golden eyes. Like lions have yellow eyes? So Hiranyaksha had yellow eyes. After thus killing the most formidable demon Hiranyaksha, the Supreme Lord Hari, the origin of the boar species. How many religions in the world talk about God as being the original boar?
Only one.
Returned to his own abode, where there was always a party. Wasn't quite the way Robert translated it. Where there was always an uninterrupted festival. The Lord was praised by all the demigods headed by Brahma. So I'm just going to read one paragraph from the purport. Although the Lord has his particular abode in which to reside, he is all-pervasive. The impersonalists accept one aspect of the Lord's features, the all-pervasive aspect, but they cannot understand his localized situation in his transcendental abode, where he always engages in fully transcendental pastimes. Especially mentioned in this verse is the word, what word again? What's the word? Good. Close. Akandito Utsavam. Akandita Utsava, it becomes Akandita Utsava. Now here Prabhupada says Utsava means pleasure. Whenever some function takes place to express happiness, it is called Utsava. So what are Utsavas for? Expressing happiness. Utsava, the expression of complete happiness, is always present in the Vaikuntha Lokas, the abode of the Lord, who is worshipable even by demigods like Brahma, to say nothing of other less important entities, such as human beings. Of course, we tend to think that we're most. So, people want to be happy and express happiness. People look for vacations, for parties, for some sort of celebration. Even people who don't like parties, there actually are people who don't like parties.
The socialite.
I know people like that. They just stay in the room. Even they like to celebrate. Maybe they have different ways of celebrating. But everybody likes to celebrate. Celebrate is to express happiness. So in Vaikuntha Loka, they're always celebrating. They're always expressing happiness, which must mean that they always have happiness to express. You know, in this world, it's kind of hard always to have a party for several reasons. First of all, you have a hard time paying the mortgage. Party. And second of all, we don't always have some happiness to express. The vast majority of the time, we feel like there's nothing to celebrate at all. You know, what's the occasion for a party? So I was thinking that we could look at different kinds of happiness and different ways of expressing it. Does that sound all right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah.
So we know that Bhagavad Gita talks about happiness in the passion and ignorance, and then also transcendental happiness. So what should we look at first? We start from the bottom or start from the top? Let's start from the bottom and go up. Sorry, kid. I did not ask her to leave. I figure that's going to be maybe a few years, you know. Hopefully it'll all be nice to live when I'm a kid. All right, so happiness in the mode of ignorance is just misery from beginning to end. It's not actual happiness at all. Happiness in the mode of ignorance comes from, well, it's the kind of happiness we feel. I mean, maybe none of you ever feel this way, but I've experienced this. The happiness we feel when we do something wrong and we've gotten away with it. And it's sort of the happiness a little kid feels when they turn over the rubbish bin. It doesn't have any particular purpose. It's not like they're going to take out the rubbish and play with it instead of their toys. But they delight in it, don't they?
Yeah.
See little kids? 1, 2-year-old? So what's the happiness? It's an interesting kind of happiness. So the happiness from doing something wrong. We know it's wrong. The thing itself doesn't give us any pleasure. Have you noticed that about grossly sinful things? They don't really give much pleasure in and of themselves. The main pleasure is, I'm doing something wrong and I'm getting away with it. Another kind of happiness in the mode of ignorance is when we've got something at the expense of somebody else. I beat out that guy for the job. You know, so especially someone who's been bothering you, or who's in your way, you've gotten them out of your way, you got them in trouble, you superseded them in your exams, or in your, how much money you have, or which girl you got, or something. You got better than somebody. You got something at someone else's expense. Happiness in the mode of ignorance is also happiness that comes from having power over others. I can control you. A lot of lust in this world is also like that. I can control you, I can manipulate you, I can make you do what I want, I somehow or other have power over you. And a lot of what drives the activities in the world is this very much mode of ignorance. I can control you in a nasty way. I can control you through fear, I can control you through threats, I can control you because I have more money than you, I can control you because I'm beautiful, I can control you because I'm intelligent, and I'm going to get you to do what I want even if it's not favorable for you. I met one gentleman who brags about how he makes a lot of money in third world countries by exploiting people. He takes pleasure in it. You know, I'm paying people below market wages, and I'm making a low quality product but selling it at a high price. And that way I'm making a lot of money. So that's very much happiness in the mode of ignorance. Of course, then there's very gross aspects of that. And if you go to the lowest level, that would be like the happiness someone gets from murder and robbery and things like that, from intoxication. So those things don't really have any happiness in them at all. If you compare that kind of happiness to joy, the joy you feel, you know, when it's sunny and you're outside in the forest, having a picnic with your friends. You know, if you compare that kind of happiness to the happiness that you get when you have power and control other people through fear and manipulation, or the happiness you get from doing something wrong, you'll find that mode of ignorance happiness has no real happiness. There's no feeling of joy in the heart. Another kind of mode of ignorance happiness is the energy a person gets from anger. When we get angry, we get like a rush of energy. So that's also happiness in the mode of ignorance. But there's no joy in any of that. In fact, it's like a constriction, isn't it? It's not like your heart closes in on itself. And even while you're enjoying that happiness, you feel yucky. You just feel like, yes, I got power. So it's never really happiness. It's not really happiness at all. There's something there. Because Krishna says he's also death. He says I'm cheating, I'm gambling. So Krishna's everything. He's also cheating, he's also death. But enjoying the mode of ignorance is real. So mode of passion, happiness, is a little different. Mode of passion, happiness is righteous. Someone in the mode of passion is very interested in religion. doing what's right, doing what's honorable, and being honored for it. Doing what's honorable and making sure everybody notices I've done something honorable. Giving charity, making sure, see how much charity I've given? See what project I've done? See what temple I've built? See how many books I distribute? One wants to do something good and honorable, but the focus is on getting honor and getting respect, having some position in the world, having wealth in the world, having status. So there's a little bit of happiness there in the beginning. Actually, in one sense, it's not any real happiness there either. It's really a mental concoction of happiness. It's kind of, I think of it like you have a photograph of your beautiful house and your nice car and your nice family, and you kind of look at it and say, there, I must be happy. It's not really an expansive joy kind of thing, but there are certain sorts of happiness in the mode of passion that are particularly intoxicating, especially illicit sex life. You know, in the beginning, the person says, yes, I know. And they became so overwhelmed with that, they forget everything in life. Mode of passion happiness tends to be very consuming. But again, it's not anything like real joy, and it very quickly degrades into misery. You know, all the things that you got the honor for and all the opulence that you get, you have to maintain them. It's based on having things earned righteously and honestly and religiously. But it's based on, you know, having the degrees, having the house, having the car, having the attractive family where all your kids went to the best schools, having a good record of being an upright citizen, having material accomplishments. And all of those things are very fleeting. It has no permanence. You have a nice house, but how long will this house last? Old buildings are maybe 200 years old. It's not a long time, 200 years. Remember when we built a school building, I said, how long will this last? They said, oh, maybe 60 years. Doing all this work for 60 years. And the accomplishments become forgotten. And they don't stay. How many businesses stay hundreds and hundreds of years? Few. I'm sure there's some here in London that can say established 1816 or something. And the honor is also forgotten. And all of those sort of opulences are also very shaky. We talk about how Lakshmi is Chanchula. Lakshmi, Shri, all the opulences. You think about all the opulences. I mean, wealth is very shaky, isn't it? Especially modern wealth. It's just numbers in a computer. And then like that, your numbers can buy you only half the things they bought you yesterday. Correct? That happens overnight. It happened to my daughter-in-law's father. He said he lost half of his wealth overnight. Or even your property. Your property can decrease in value. The government can take your property. There can be a war and you can lose your property. There can be a fire. And all of our wealth is subject to be lost. What are the other opulences? Beauty. So beauty doesn't last. Those of you who are young and beautiful, some of you here are young and beautiful. You don't see anybody who's 80 who's beautiful. It doesn't last. Or just a bad accident or a disease. It's gone. It can be gone in a moment. It can be so beautiful. You get in a car accident, the beauty is gone. Chanchula. And then knowledge. So knowledge again, I mean, you just get in a head-on collision, you may not remember anything. I don't remember your name. But to speak of the death, that's one of the reasons we're really scared of death, you know. Death means that we lose this whole identity we've built up. We've spent so long building it up. This is my parents, this is my home, this is when I was born, this is what I've done. And it can be lost. Not can be, will be. And that's another opulent strength. So again, generally, old people are not so strong. And some small disease accident can be gone. What others? Fame. Oh, God. Especially in the modern age, you can lose your fame can turn to infamy in an instant on the internet. Just say one stupid thing to a microphone, and it's finished. Get out of your position. Doesn't that happen? Some big politician or somebody, and they just say one really stupid thing. They just weren't thinking, you know? Maybe they meant something. No, that wasn't what I meant. I meant. Too late. It's already in the microphones. Especially they say that they don't think the microphones are on anymore. Right? They think the microphones are turned off, and then they say, there's something. It goes all over the world. Yeah, what election year it was? In America, there was one politician running, and after some victory, he made some big roaring noise into the microphone. And just from doing that, he was out of the running. So that's also very shaky. So mode of passion is based on these opulences: fame, wealth, knowledge, strength, beauty. And so this happiness is full of anxiety. If one is celebrating because one has achieved beauty or knowledge or wealth or fame, strength, you're celebrating something that you can lose like that. And therefore it's mixed with anxiety, it's mixed with fear, and from fear comes anger. And we find the happiness in the mode of passion. Krishna explains, of course, this sequence in 262 Bhagavad Gita. It leads to great attachment. He talks twice in the Bhagavad Gita about attachment, fear, and anger. So this happiness is, I have this. Now I gotta hold it. I gotta protect it. I'm sure nobody takes it. But you can't protect it. How are you going to protect it against time? So you spend your life trying to control everything. And eventually it all turns to misery. You lose it, or you find out that the opulence isn't even so enjoyable. The more you have of the opulence, the more people envy you, and take it away from you, so you have to put your energy into protecting. So it leads eventually to misery. Happiness in the mode of goodness is quite different. Happiness in the mode of goodness, we start to touch something that's actually happiness. We start to touch something that's actually joy. Krishna says happiness in the mode of goodness means all the gates of the body are illumined by knowledge. So that means whatever you see as it is. That'd be nice, isn't it? So I've given this analogy before. If you want to go somewhere, if you want to go from here to the Soho Street Temple, you have to have a proper map. Right? Or you have to have one of those good tom-toms. You have to know where you're going. You have to have a map that is in accord with the streets. So when you're in the mode of goodness, your map is in accord with reality. In the mode of passion, in the mode of ignorance, you want happiness, but you have the wrong map. You don't get there. You put all your effort into getting happiness, and when you arrive at your destination, there's no happiness there. Somebody gave you the wrong directions. And modern society is full of giving directions in the mode of passion and ignorance. If you really want to be happy, don't listen to those religious people. They're just trying to restrict you. Just do whatever you feel like. Get a good degree, make a lot of money, get a big house, get status in society, then you'll be happy. But that's not the right map. What's really funny is that even the atheistic, materialistic scientists know that it's the wrong map. They'll tell you. Research shows that once you have the bare necessities of life, more money doesn't make you happy. Just materially speaking. That's what really makes you happy in good relationships. Are there any courses like that in school? Having good relationships. So they know it's the wrong map, and still they're teaching like that. So in the mode of goodness, everything is illumined by knowledge. You understand how to actually get happiness. You hear things as they are, you see things as they are, you taste things as they are. Your senses are not distorted. the world appears to you to be happily situated. Actually, someone in the mode of goodness, they're experiencing happiness all the time. Now, this is another interesting feature if we compare passion, goodness, and ignorance. So in the mode of ignorance, you're never really happy. You have some sort of energy from anger or from envy or from greed, but it's not happiness. It's never really happiness. It's energy. It's not happiness. Just like both pain and pleasure are electrical impulses in the brain. So there's some charm, but it's not happiness. In the mode of passion, you have happiness occasionally, on a superficial level. It's based on something fruitive. So if we think of fruitive, a fruit. So if my happiness is based on a fruit, so to get the fruit I have to plant the seed, I've got to water the seed, I've got to pull the weeds, I've got to keep the goats and elephants away. Okay? Then I've got to wait till the seed ripens. Then I pick the seed, then I eat the seed. I eat the fruit. And how many times a year do I get to eat the fruit? One time a year from my tree. So one time a year when I get to eat the fruit, the rest of the time I'm taking care of the tree. And it might be that I take care of the tree and there's bugs or disease and I don't get any fruit that year. So fruitive enjoyment is like that. It's sort of like a carrot that's in front of you. You know? Your happiness in the mode of passion is, okay, when I get there, then I will be happy. So all the time you're getting there, getting there, getting there, getting there, getting there. You're not happy. Okay, yeah, I know I'm working really hard at doing this. It's really hard at doing. But when I get there, then I will be happy. And every once in a while, you get there. And sometimes there's a fruit, and sometimes there's not. Sometimes when you bite the fruit, it tastes sweet. Sometimes you bite the fruit, like, oh my God, there's bugs. Okay, next goal. And even if it's really a fruit, how long do you get to enjoy it? Not very long. Then you go for another one. So you have very periodic, your happiness is very rare. It just happens at it's rare intervals, and it's not, you can't count on it. Whereas the mode of goodness is there all the time. It's always there, because it's not dependent on the fruit. What opulence is a person in the mode of goodness interested in? It was
Renunciation.
Renunciation. It was one we didn't mention in the mode of passion. None of you said it. Renunciation. Renunciation is a very interesting topic. Because it's not chanchula like the others. And it's under your control. Is your beauty under your control? Is your beauty under your control? Is your wealth under your control? No. Your strength is under your control. Your intelligence, your knowledge, under your control. Your fame is under your control. That's really under your control. But your renunciation is under your control. It's a really interesting option. You can control how renounced you are, and nobody can take it away. It's yours. So if your happiness is in renunciation, in detachment, renunciation doesn't mean that you don't have any possessions. Kinchana doesn't mean, it could mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that all your possessions can fit into a little envelope, or that you don't have any possessions. You know, there are people who think like that. They walk around naked, right? Especially in India, you see that. People who think Kinchana must mean that I have nothing. Of course, sometimes they have something. They might have a trident or something. Carrying the helmet. But it means I don't feel I own everything. And my mood is that whatever happens is for the good. Of course, just material goodness, a person does have some attachment to being in truth. Attachment to being in truth. There's usually some mix of passion, some pride there. But there's a feeling of great joy, expansive joy, and freedom. Happiness in the mode of ignorance and the mode of passion is very binding. Happiness in the mode of goodness is conducive to liberation. Then there's, of course, transcendental happiness. Transcendent. Trans means
Beyond.
above, over. Right? Like transatlantic. Sorry, I'm a teacher. It's transcending the senses. So in the mode of goodness, the senses are illumined by knowledge, but transcendental happiness goes beyond the senses, or we can say it deals with purified senses. Atashi Krishna namari na bhaved braham indriya. You cannot understand Krishna with one's material senses. The instruments are too blunt. They're not fine enough to access Krishna. So transcendental happiness is something that's beyond the senses, the gross senses, and beyond even the mind. So in the mode of goodness, the mind is illumined by knowledge, but transcendental is beyond the mind. The goal of yoga is to stop the mind. You know? It's the goal of yoga, to make the mind just. Our entanglement in this world is because of the mind. Because we want to be in this world, therefore we have this mind that protects our false ego and says, yes, you're very nice, no, you're terrible. Oh, it goes back and forth. You're wonderful. You're wonderful, you're terrible. You're wonderful. You. Oh, universe revolves around you. How wonderful or how terrible you are. You are the most important. You. That's the business of the mind. So yoga means we just say, shh, go away. It's not about me. So happiness that's transcendental is when we're not taking happiness either in evil or in righteousness or even in truth, but in love. That is transcendental. But even people in the mode of ignorance and passion can get a little idea. People in the mode of ignorance may love their cat. It's very difficult to live without any affection. Then you're like a psychopath. You have no affection. Even animals have some affection for their young or for their mate. Okay. That feeling of affection, Prabhupada says that Krishna has manifested us to enjoy our affection. That's transcendental happiness. Now, mode of goodness happiness, one achieves it at every moment because it's not dependent on fruits. I'm illumined now, therefore I'm in joy now. And I'm illumined the next now, and therefore I'm experiencing joy in that now. And I'm always experiencing joy in the now because I'm full of detachment, and therefore I'm not dependent on this carrot over there. But transcendental happiness is unlimited. Anandam buddhivardhana. Mode of goodness happiness is limited. Transcendental is unlimited. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, in commenting on the Shikshastakam Anandam buddhivardhana, this ocean, it increases the ocean of transcendental bliss. He says, although the jiva is very small, we are very small, our capacity for joy is unlimited. Unlimited and always increasing. And that happiness has nothing to do with focus on, I forget me. I mean, again, even materialistic people, when they feel some affection for someone, they forget themselves. Like we're celebrating the birthday. So when your baby was born, I bet you forgot about yourself. You just thought, oh, my baby, my baby. You forgot all about yourself. Forgot where you were, what your name was. You just, oh, my baby, look at it, oh, it's a boy. Is he okay? How many fingers does he have? Right? All of your thought, right? Isn't it? All of your thought is just in the other person. And you put him down to sleep, and you're trying to sleep, and you think, is he breathing? Do you have a proper person to take care of him? All you're thinking about is him. Of course, that doesn't last in this world. You're probably not still doing it. That kind of intense love and affection doesn't last. after you have enough grandchildren and great-grandchildren, you can't even remember all the birthdays anymore. It's funny, my mother told me that happened to her, and I thought, how's that possible? But it happened to me the other day. I was talking to my son, and I said, wow, they should have a birthday week ago, didn't you? Like, oh, God. Now you forget it. Doesn't stay. But we have some idea. We have some idea how when we become absorbed in affection for someone else, we forget ourselves. We're just thinking about the other. Right? Young boy, young girl who I love, they're just thinking about the other. Not forever, but for a while. Doesn't last. You lose consciousness of it. You don't care about yourself. You're willing to sacrifice for the person that you love. Sometimes people sacrifice for the country that they love, cause that they love, and they lose themselves in that sacrifice. They forget about it. So that's a little hint. With transcendental happiness, we lose ourselves in love of God. We don't lose ourselves literally in that we lose our identity. We're just so focused on Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Is he happy? Does he have something to eat? Does he have nice clothes on? What is he doing today? Like he did yesterday. What he used to be doing? What dances is he performing? What did he say? And that joy keeps expanding and expanding and expanding. So people who have mode of ignorance happiness, it's interesting if we think about how people celebrate happiness, because Prabhupada says here, Utsaha means to express happiness. And we find the ways of expressing happiness are basically the same for everybody, aren't they? Get together with some friends, you have food, you have music, right? Pretty much the same. I mean, the difference is what kind of friends you have, what kind of food you eat, what kind of music you listen to. It's essentially the same. Friends, food, music, sometimes dancing. If we really want to celebrate, we do something with fire. And we've got food candles going over there. At our big festival in Russia. Anybody here been to our festival in Russia? So they have these devotees who do fireworks dancing. Fireworks, real fireworks. Of course it has to be done at night. They have costumes that have lights on them, kind of like Christmas lights on the costume. And then they have helmets that have fireworks that come out of the helmets. And they have, seriously, their shoulder blades where fireworks come out of their shoulders. And then they have batons where their fireworks come out the ends and they're twirling the batons. So if you really want to have an extra celebration, then there's usually something with lights or fire. Don't try it here. What else do you do if there's extra celebration? Maybe a lot of flowers, something with color, light, scents. Or we go to a beautiful place, a lake. Did you notice that water is very associated with enjoyment? When people want to go on vacation, they usually go someplace with water or snow. Usually water. Have you ever thought about how many times a day Krishna goes into the water? Takes at least 4 baths a day. Okay, he's swimming in Radhakund in the middle of the day, he swims in the Jamuna at night, takes a bath in the morning, a bath in the afternoon, and then many times he swims in other places also. That's to heal and want to. So if you really, really want to celebrate, then you go out of the house, you go to a park, or, I mean, if you really, really want to celebrate, then you go to like Tahiti, Hawaii, or someplace like that. Of course, they don't have to have rich friends. You have to have a charter jet and bring everybody there. Go to the ocean. But basically, we see these ways of celebrating are the same. It's just the nature again, what food you eat, what music you're listening to, what kind of dancing, what kind of food you're associating with, like that. Prabhupada also gave instructions about having special festivals every Sunday. I remember The first time I ever visited a temple on Sunday, they were doing a Julian there, they were swinging the deities, although it wasn't that time of the year. And Prabhupada talked about, having different festivals every Sunday for different events. We read about, in Krishna book, we read about the residents of Vrindavan having so many different festivals. So, we don't mind finding any excuse for festivals. Actually, for us in Krishna consciousness, the way our lives should be, is that every moment, like in Vaikuntha, should feel to us like a festival. We should always be full of joy, and we should always be expressing it. Even if we're just alone in our room, we should feel that we're having a festival of ever-expanding bliss. And if we're not, then we're still covered by the modes. But that's the truth. The truth is that we are always full of ever-expanding bliss. We do always have something to celebrate. And we can celebrate all the time. After all, Krishna's in our heart, and if Krishna's there, that means Radharani's there, Mother Yasoda's there, Govardhana's there, Arjuna's there. Take a ticket. So that should be our life. Our life should feel like an unending celebration. You may say, wait a minute, it's hard work, we do our fun. Actually, Bhaktivinoda Thakur said the trouble we take for Krishna is his great fun. And we take trouble for Krishna if we see that this is a way of expressing my love. Because motive, transcendental happiness is just love. That's all it is. And one way to express love is sometimes through sacrifice. The inconvenience. Isn't that a way to express love? And therefore that should also be a cause for celebration. So if you live like this, then you're not dependent on the external results of your activities over which you have no control, or very little. Can we control the external results of our activities? A little bit. We can influence them. We certainly can't control them. You no longer have happiness dependent on things you can't control. Isn't that nice? Wouldn't that be nice? If your happiness is dependent only on things you can control, then it doesn't matter how somebody else talks to you, how other people treat you, what your health is like, how much money you have, how nice your house is, what the weather is like. Wouldn't that be nice? That's just a choice. That's a choice. Say, I choose to find my happiness in things I can control. I choose to find my happiness in reality. That's a choice we can make moment by moment. And what can I control? I can control whether or not I feel affection for Krishna. I can control whether or not I see Krishna in this moment of my life. I can control whether or not I'm offering everything to Krishna with affection. And then celebrating. To whatever extent I can do that, I'm very small, I can't do it completely. But to whatever extent I can do that, I celebrate, moment by moment. And then I'm happy, no matter what. Whether the festival goes as planned, whether the temple gets built, whether I distribute one book or 100 books, whether I get this, whether I get that, whether I do well on my exams, whether I marry the person I want when I want, or I never marry, where I live, doesn't matter anymore. That's not where the source of my happiness is. I may do those things out of duty as my service to Krishna, but that's not where the source of my happiness is. The source of my happiness is my relationship with Krishna. So that's the way our lives should be. That is the essence of the spiritual life. And then of course we can get together from time to time and have big external celebrations where we take the joy that's in our heart and share it externally. So birthdays of devotees are a nice thing to celebrate. And I was thinking, why do we celebrate birthdays? That's interesting. Why do we celebrate birth and mourn death? It's such a miserable world. You'd think we would do the opposite. Some people do. Why do we celebrate birth? I mean, for a soul to come into the human body is a very wonderful thing. And especially to come into a human body with an opportunity for spiritual life is a very wonderful thing. And of course, birth itself, although it's listed as one of the miseries of life, because I've been at many, many births. I've been probably 50 or 60 years. It's really incredible. I read once where a man said that after the birth of his first child, he immediately became a theist. It must be God. Because the mother doesn't know how the baby's forming in her body. She's not consciously engineering it. How does Krishna make these bodies that they create another body? It's pretty amazing. It's not like, a little computer pops out of your computer or something. It's incredible. It's really amazing. You're just eating and it forms this whole other body. So it is a wonderful miracle. And we also celebrate years spent in devotional service. This human body, it's temporary like others. It's only here for a lightning flash. Nothing we do will be remembered in 100 years. But still, any moment spent. I just the other day met a fascinating devotee who's both an initiated Brahmin and an ordained rabbi. It's only the third devotee I've met like that. I know one devotee who's a Christian minister and also initiated devotee, and another one who's a Catholic monk and initiated devotee. It's only the third person I met in that kind of category. Fascinating person. Anyway, he was telling me, he said, according to the Jewish sages, if you can even move a hair's breadth toward God, that's glorious. Because this world is so hard, right? You can just make a hair's breadth of progress in this life. So what's to speak of somebody who's dedicating their life? So that's also we celebrate. So many years of dedicating your life to Krishna. So thank you very much. Should I ask? Your time is much better than my talk. We should just it's late, so I probably shouldn't ask for questions. Questions. Take maybe 5-10 minutes. I just don't want anybody hating me. Yes.
Thank you, Madam. One thing I remember I read about the Govardhan, when they first circumnavigated the Govardhan with Krishna, and it mentions that the inhabitants, they dressed very nicely, luxurious. And
Was that a criticism? No. Well, I was seeing all the ladies dressing up,
No, I hadn't dressed very luxuriously. I remember one time we had some discussion about, why is it that, like at someone's party, then all the guests will dress luxuriously? Because a devotee might think, well, what's that got to do with giving pleasure to Krishna? I dress in like some very fine clothes.
It shows that you think it's a special occasion. Something special. You don't wear your normal clothes. There's some special clothes. Everything's different. You have special clothes, there's special food, there's something out of the ordinary. It's a way of showing respect. And you find that just like people have special clothes they'll wear if they go to church once a week, for example, wear their Sunday best, going to God's house. That's fun too. A lot of people like to dress up. I mean, maybe you're not in that category, but.
What are you trying to say?
Definitely, most women like to dress up. Not all, but most. And even a lot of guys like to dress up. It's fun. Krishna likes to dress up. That's one of his qualities listed by Urmila Swami. He likes to dress up. He does it all the time. He always looks like he's a dancing actor going on the theatrical stage. I mean, he really goes all out. I told you that he goes swimming or takes a bath several times a day. Well, every time he does that, he gets dressed again. And more often than that. Because after he eats, it's like, okay, there's some food on my clothes. He's a very immaculate dresser. And before he's going to fight with the demon, he always, Right. He always wants to look picture perfect, just in case anybody paints a portrait. So we also have that propensity. It's part of the fact that there's a Akandidotsavam. The fact that there's a Akandidotsavam, that there's always a festival, that Krishna's always dressing up.
Is it also that Krishna's devotees, they like to dress up, and Krishna likes to see them enjoying themselves?
Of course. Krishna's not the enjoyer and the controller like some dictator. I'm the only enjoyer, everything is only for me. I'm the controller. No, Superman is It's also the best friend. So, just like the Vedic standard of birthdays, is that you're supposed to give charity to austerity. Western birthdays is everything's for me. The Prabhupada writes in Bhagavatam. The standard, you didn't hear that, right? The standard for birthdays is you're supposed to do charity, austerity, and penance. But what Krishna does is he likes to take the food off his plate and give it to his devotees, He sees, okay, this is this thing that Mother Yasoda gave me. That's your favorite food. He gives it to you. He wants to see you enjoy it. Krishna's pleasure is to see us happy. Our pleasure is to see Krishna's happy.
There's also another reason could be that the devotees are thinking, I like to dress up. Krishna likes to see me happy. So, or at least, devotees in Prajna, maybe they think like that. Krishna likes to see us happy dressing up. So.
Of course, if you have a party and everybody just comes dressed in their gardening clothes.
What would you say? There's a nice verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita where the gopis dress up nicely. Krishna enjoys that.
Yes.
When they see Krishna very happy, they feel even more happiness than Krishna.
Yes. Yes. Krishna has no envy. We don't want anyone to be quite as happy or opulent as we are. Almost. Maybe you can be as happy and opulent as I am in this area, but not in that one. But Krishna, he wants his devotees to be happier than him. There's no envy. Anything else? Yes.
Thank you very much, Mother, for a nice class. I have two questions. I think they're kind of related. You mentioned about happiness and passion, and said you got all these things, like a beautiful house, and your children went to the finest schools, and you have this and that. So, is it possible that we can still have all these things and it not be in a mode of
Everybody
passion?
wants to know this.
But related to that.
Sure, the point is, well, let's do this first, then we'll do the related to that.
Okay.
The point is, where's my source of happiness? That's the point. Sudama had all those things, and he sought his prasad. That means his happiness was his relationship with Krishna, not the things. And if your happiness is a relationship with Krishna, not the things, and if the things are there, you're happy, and the things are not there, you're happy. And you're free. If your happiness is dependent on certain things being there, then you can't be happy, because then you're always in anxiety about whether or not the things will be there, which you can't control. If If your happiness is dependent on something you can't control, how can you be happy? Isn't that just logical? If my happiness is dependent on something I can't control, how much happiness can I have? I'm always going to feel anxiety. So sure, you can have anything, everything. Why not? Maharaj Yudhisthira had more opulence than Lord Brahma. But that wasn't his happiness. His happiness was his relationship with Krishna. So Maharaj Yudhisthira was just as happy in exile as he was doing the Rajasuya Yajna. Okay, now the cousin.
Cousin is, you said, you mentioned again transcendental happiness. You said that it doesn't matter anymore, whether it's this or whether it's that, or like this or like that. And sometimes you may hear someone say, I don't care, it doesn't matter. And it may come across falsely, it may seem like false kind of renunciation. Can you help me to understand how...
Well, sometimes when people say it doesn't matter, they're just in so much ignorance.
Yeah.
You know, like someone who's intoxicated, they're lying on a piece of cardboard on the street. They don't even know where they are. So, and also sometimes people say it doesn't matter out of anger.
Mm-hmm. They can't control it.
Well, you get so frustrated, you know, because we're trying to get happiness out of something over which I have no control and very limited influence. And that's a very frustrating situation. By definition, it must be frustrating. So sometimes we just become angry and just say, well, I don't care anymore. You know, it's someone, even in the mode of goodness, what you speak of transcendent, they're always feeling joy. Their joy is dependent on something that's within. Their happiness is within. If your happiness is within, then you genuinely don't care about the externals because that's not your source of happiness. What does it matter? What does it matter? Just doesn't matter. You've already have everything. It's just like, okay, let's just take money for example. This is a really simple thing. Because pretty much everybody wants money. Nobody wants money for money. You want money because it will get you security. That's a big reason people want money. And it will get you freedom. If you have enough money, you don't need to work for anybody. You can get on a plane, you can go where you want, you can buy what you want, right? If you have money, you can get pleasures. You can buy good food and comfortable clothing and the best stereo system. So let's say that you had 100% security, 100% freedom, and 100% pleasure. Would you care about money? No. If you had everything that you want by having money, you wouldn't need the money. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You wouldn't care. So if you have unlimited, ever-expanding pleasure, and in the sense that I'm a soul, I feel security. I know I can't be hurt, nobody can hurt me. I never die. If your happiness is dependent on your relationship with Krishna, which can go on in any circumstances, why care about all the things that people get in order to achieve those things, which don't give you them anyway? It just wouldn't matter. Does that make sense? So that's different than that. It just doesn't matter because I'm just so dull, or it doesn't matter because I'm angry. I don't care anymore. Yes?
As you're speaking, if you have your happiness from, say, your relationship with Krishna, you're saying that therefore your happiness is not dependent on the things. But then why would one aspire for, say, your children to be in the best school or to whatever it might be? And because as soon as you do that, if you're quite self-satisfied and you don't really, why would you do it then?
This is such an excellent question. Thank you.
Yeah.
And this question you asked is one of the main reasons why people don't go for self-realization. And I think, if we look in the core of our heart, I could say that most likely that this question is there somewhere, unless we are experiencing unlimited bliss at every moment. It's this fear that, well, if I was fully self-satisfied, I wouldn't do anything. But but think of what that's based on. Why is it we want to do all those things?